Please welcome the 56th governor of the state of New York, Andrew M. Cuomo.
In recent months, the governor has raised the minimum wage for all state, civil, and university workers in New York by executive order, and fast food workers before that, last summer, through a wage board. Now, the governor's latest proposal would phase in the same $15 minimum wage for all workers over the next 5 years.
This month, 560,000 families live in poverty, and millions of low-wage workers in this state are forced to choose between paying rent and buying food for their families. There is an unhealthy income inequality gap that is only growing. I say lift up the poor and the working families of this state and pay a real decent wage that honors FDR's original intent and promise.
But a broader increase, raising the wage to $15 for all workers in New York, public and private, will require the approval of the legislature. Labor groups and advocates for the working poor have delivered thousands of petitions to lawmakers.
I work 3 jobs and still can't provide for myself and my child.
Well, I think right now we have way too many, particularly single moms, but a lot of families, both parents working, who are working for $9 an hour, and they're working part-time because that's what's available, and they're working 2 part-time jobs, which means they don't have benefits with either job, and they really can't support their families on that, and I understand that.
But Assemblywoman Jenna Dupree says lawmakers also have to consider the impact raising the minimum wage to $15 could have on employers and the upstate economy.
And it's not just the salary, it's Social Security tax, the FICA tax, workers' compensation, unemployment. Everything adds up, and many of our small businesses are very concerned about it.
A mandated increase of 67% of any cost, whether put in effect immediately or phased in over any length of time, completely disregards the current state of our economy and ignores the high costs of doing business in New York.
Several business groups and the State Farm Bureau warn raising the wage to $15 will drive business and as many as 200,000 jobs out of New York. 500 of those jobs may be here in the North Country. Airbrake, a century-old manufacturer in Watertown, is threatening to leave the state.
Every business in New York State is going to be affected by this somehow.
Carl Lofberg owns this Arby's restaurant on Route 11, just a few miles from the plant. He's already feeling the impact of the minimum wage increase for fast food workers that started at the end of December, requiring change to pay $1 more an hour. And it will keep going up about $1 a year until it hits $15 in 5 years.
It will have a huge impact.
The majority of his 70 workers earn minimum wage.
You know, our margins are very tight, very thin.
Are you now going to have to look at either cutting your hours for your employees or even eliminating positions altogether?
Absolutely. Businesses always adjust, and they're going to automate. They already are.
He hasn't trimmed hours or positions yet, but Lofberg is looking at automation, including having customers place their own orders.
We're going to have touchscreen where they'll order themselves, and thereby we can probably eliminate one cashier.
Lofberg says he and other restaurant owners are also facing higher costs under new Obamacare rules, and along with the new wages, may have to consider raising prices.
They're not going to have any choice, or they're going to be out of business.
Lofberg now owns 5 restaurants, including this Arby's in Potsdam. He did own 7, but after the higher wage was approved last year, he closed 2 of them, including an Arby's in Messina.
Last summer, you closed your restaurant at St. Lawrence Center in Messina. This was a huge part of that?
You know, we just couldn't afford to keep it open, so we decided to close it.
Lofberg says he understands the fight for $15 in the city where the cost of living is much higher, but he says upstate is a different story.
It's just a lot more expensive, so absolutely, I think New York City should be more. Here in upstate New York, you know, it's just not the case. I think that it should be more regionalized, but these guys just want to think that square peg, square hole, and it just doesn't work like that.
And while the increase helps workers like Andrew Wilson, who's studying at SUNY Canton,
it means a lot. Like, you know, I'm in school, got to buy books.
Many others working minimum wage jobs aren't students and are counting on the raise to live and support their families.
I know how hard it is to get by for a lot of people that work these types of jobs, and often they have to work multiple jobs.
For some, including Andrew, the higher wage will be offset by a reduction in hours.
They cut hours back. Nothing serious, though. Like, I now do 30, 35. Before, I was doing 40, 45.
And many worry that while going to $15 will help the lowest paid workers earn more, it may come at a price.
And the minute that happens, employers start laying off people.
If minimum wage goes up, then everything else is going to go right up with it.